So it's early in the morning in the Central Time Zone again, so it must be time for the Speed Skating video podcast. Let's do this. So I was writing an intro for my guest today, and I realized that it sounded like some of the other intros that I've done were got a guy that starts on rollers and inlines and gets pretty good at it and decides that, boy, I really want to go to the Olympics, so I got to transition to ice. So it sounds like a normal run-of-the-mill story that we've seen on this channel before, but this gentleman is anything but ordinary. Coming out of India and deciding to move to Europe without much money and chasing a dream. All the way from the Netherlands, let's bring in Mr. Vish Jadeja.
Hi.
Good afternoon,
Hello.
sir.
Good afternoon. Very good afternoon.
Yeah, good morning here.
Yeah, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's afternoon, 2 o'clock over here.
What are you drinking?
Ginger or something. Ginger
Oh,
water.
Nice. I got some coffee.
Yeah. I think I've had way too much of it already, so let's just switch over.
You've probably had a big workout already, so...
No, not today. It's just,
Oh.
as I said, I'm still because after coming back from the Himalayas, it's like you kind of have to a little bit, take it easy a bit. So
Oh,
it's still one session of 3-4 hours, and that's it. So
gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
So I did a lot of research trying to piece together your story. It's an extremely interesting one, so I'm very excited about this session today. One of the things that surprised me is it says that your parents were athletic, and that's certainly understandable. So I assumed your father played cricket and your mother was running track or something, but it
No.
seems like...
So the story is, I'm a third generation athlete in the family. My mom comes from academia. She studied at some of the best universities of the country. My father was a roller skater, national champion. My aunt, so my father's younger sister, was a 10-time national champion for roller skating and also played hockey. She represented India for the figure skating world championships in Montreal in 1983 on those, on the foldable skates, as in like the ones which you have to basically attach to your shoes, which was in the basically it was a hangover from the 70s when the roller score was really big and how roller skating was getting more and more popular in the West and in India. I still have pictures of them skating in their bell bottoms and with a disco ball at the track and stuff like that. And my grandfather used to play field hockey for the university, and he's played with one of the legends of the sport in India called Dhyan Chand. So basically a third generation athlete. And I grew up in the house with all these medals and these certificates of my aunt and my father. And it was obvious that I was going to pick up sports at some point. Seriously, I remember walking and roller skating at the same time because that's something we do in the house. So my mom always wanted me to study. My father was okay with me doing sports.
Well, I got a picture here that I think you've seen, but tell us what's happening here.
Yeah, this is wow. This is this is the nationals, and I actually did not do that well in this race. I was this track is on a beach, so the wind picked up halfway through the race, and I was I was like half a corner ahead of everyone, but the wind picked up really hard, and I was like, oh, something's going wrong here. Yeah, this was at the nationals in Visakhapatnam. It's like in the south. In India, the place is very popular for roller skating also.
Okay.
They have 2 or 3 tracks on that coast. Beautiful place. Beautiful place to train, actually, because of the beach. You can go running on that and train in the sand very easily. But yeah, so this was the nationals in 2000, I think 1 or 2. I don't remember, but it was like I've been doing nationals since 99. So yeah.
I just when I was reading the article, it said that that you were roller skating, so I assumed that was somebody who just didn't understand how to talk about inlines.
No.
But then I see the picture and I'm like, oh, you're racing on quads.
Yeah,
That's quite interesting. And then
yeah,
it did say at some point that you transitioned to inlines and you had
yeah,
success there as well.
yeah,
And all that's well and good. You're doing
yeah.
stuff in your home country, and you're doing what your father told you to. But then,
No, actually,
uh,
my father was never, he was always okay with me having an idea of the fact that I'm skating, because he also ran an academy. He still runs an academy for roller skating, so quads and inlines.
yeah,
And they are like 750 national medals for his academy by now.
jeez,
So like I had, and he had some of the best skaters of the country. So for him, like so I was the coach's son, who just showed up.
yeah.
So and he was like, yeah, well, he better not. He told me, like, I mean, the other parents also of the team were like making a joke, like, yeah, you better not start skating very well. It's not good for business. And I was like, yeah. So but I mean, one thing led to another, and I started to like kind of improve and started to be beating some of his good, some of the most talented skaters he had. So it was kind of like, okay. And my father was also like the national team coach in 2003. So and inline skating just became more and more popular. And when we had to transition in our academy, my father's academy, we had a rule. If you want to transition from quad to inline, you at least need to win one gold medal at the nationals. That was like the benchmark
Wow.
on quads. So you can't just, even if you have the money to buy the skates, you're not allowed. You have to first prove yourself that you're dedicated enough. It took me 3 years to just win that gold. And then transition to inline skates. And then directly on inline skates, I was called up on because of the performance. I did the trials, and I was in the top 2 of the country at the time. So yeah.
So when you transitioned to inlines, I guess the question is, when did you discover that you're really more of a distance skater?
Uh, Actually, in school, I used to run cross country. So I was always good at long distance. And plus, I'm light. So then they was just obvious. And I was doing some cycle races along the way. So my physique itself did not allow me to be that explosive compared to the sprinters. And it was proven, like I could win a medal. I could medal on a point to point elimination race, and I could also be in the top 2 to top 3 on a 300-meter or a 200-meter time trial. So it was like either very short or either very very long. So no, nothing in the middle. And that was it. So I guess that's how I kind of, it was concluded, like, yeah, this is what's up.
Yeah.
And that's why I mean, yeah.
So at some point, though, you started to think about the Olympics and you started to think about ice, and you were trying to figure out, how do I do that? So clearly, to decide that you're going to pick up and move to Europe, this is a story that I really want to hear. So please take us take us through the thought processes and
Yeah,
all the checks along the way.
I think I think, as I said, like, I picked up the sports. And one of the things my parents also, like my father, or like in the household, it was like, yeah, well, yeah, national gold is okay because your aunt already represented India at the Montreal Worlds in '83 when we had nothing, like, financially we were modest and stuff. So I was like, okay, then I guess I'll have to go to the Olympics. And at the time, like with this inline skating, we've always had this undercurrent that, oh, we might be at the Olympics next year or the next year or the next year. And in that time, we had Chad Hendricks, Joey Cheek, and Derek Parra's story, which was very prominent about them shifting to ice skating, long track, and then winning medals there. And we knew about Chad Hendricks in the age when the internet was still new. We knew about Chad Hendricks because of Hyper. And Hyper, the company which made wheels, was popular in India, then Power Slide and Rollerblade. So, so we kind of knew about them from those magazines, and are like, yeah, ice skating is something it could be interesting to do. And obviously, when you spend 10 years of your life dedicating to a sport, you want to represent your country and that sport at the Olympics. Unfortunately, that did not happen for a longest period of time. And I was in a phase where I was kind of like studying engineering. I mean, education was, I was an average student, like, let's just say that. Right off the bat, I was an average student. I was kicked out of 3 schools, 3 universities, just because I was too much involved in sports. And in India, in those times, academia and sports did not go hand in hand that well. Either you could, be a bad athlete and a good a good educated person, or you would have to play cricket, and that's it. Otherwise, like, it was just always a constant battle with me and my teachers. And my parents were also kind of like, they would be called to school a lot or college to a lot, because I would miss a lot of sessions, classes, because of skating. And at some point, my parents also like, yeah, do what you want to at university. They were like, yeah, guys, you do what you want to. We cannot. I mean, he's doing what he's doing. And I think I was very fortunate to have understanding parents, where the benchmark was like, yeah, you just have to get through school. My mother at some point said, like, you just have to get through school, get an education. That would be good enough for me. But again, college dropouts. 3 times I dropped out of university, engineering, and yeah, it was just challenging. And at some point, I was just going through the newspapers in India. It said study in Denmark, and I knew that long track speed skating was like cricket to Netherlands, So I like, yeah, Netherlands is where I want to be at, but I just don't know how to get there yet. And as Indian passport holders, you need visas to wherever you want to travel in the world. So to get a visa, I needed a student. I mean, I had to study. I had to give a proper reason. And again, I can't say that, hey, I want to go skate, because that was also not a thing. Now it is. But then, yeah, basically, I started to pursue something. I wanted to study like computer science, because that was something which, as Indians at the time, we were good at. Uh, and I applied for a little bit of a loan, education loan from the bank, which I surprisingly got, which was not a big loan. It was a very, very small loan just to get started.
Yeah.
And basically that's it. My father was like, Vish, you're from Ahmedabad in Gujarat, where in summers the temperature goes to plus 50 at times degrees Celsius. I don't know how much it is.
Holy hell.
And there's only, in our language, in Gujarati, there's only one word for ice and snow, which is baraf. So we kind of like, in our culture, there's nothing closely related to ice. And plus in India, winter sports on the whole in those times were still being managed by the tourism department. So winter sports was a tourism activity. Forget about, top sports, or like even considering it as sports. So eventually, when I started to discover that there were some parts of the winter sports which were still governed separately, and ice skating was a thing, and this and that. So again, that's the administrative aspect which I was not very interested in yet, because I was like, yeah, I need to first see what I can do. Basically I packed my bags, moved to Europe, and pursue this Olympic dream for India and for myself and the family. And that's it. Basically, there was not that complicated. I mean, now when I think about it, it was like, wow, so many things have gone wrong. And so many things which you could have thought could have gone wrong have gone wrong twice by now already. So it's just, but yeah, we're still standing. We're still like doing what we're doing. So,
So you showed up in Denmark as a student.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I started.
And so when did you get some ice gear?
So basically that year there was this World Championships which was in Spain, which I still needed to participate in because I was picked up as an Indian team skater at the time. So started my education, started training over there a little bit. I met the local club, the ice skating club and the inline skating club guys. Very friendly people, very nice people. And then I basically went to Spain to participate at the World Championships, which was a miserable idea. But I still had to do it because then at least I'm a World Cup skater. And then I saw also like the amount of effort which is going to take me from national top to at least be able to stand even in the world. It's going to be equal to what I'm going to have to do for ice skating. Basically I came back and then I just started to do like 4 different jobs, study, try to figure out this life of being an athlete in Europe. And I bought my first pair of skates, but subsequently in November, I think that year, 2008. And then I was on the ice. Directly after that, at a local track, I got to participate. One of the first times I was on the ice was at a race in Sweden, in Gothenburg. And yeah, pretty much that's how it all started. And I got disqualified in my first race, and that's the last time I got disqualified because I didn't know how to change the lanes. And now, that was the first and last time, and since then I've never been disqualified for that thing at least. Yeah.
So you went immediately to long track. You didn't do short track at all?
No, there was no point. I just did not see the point because short track was fascinating, but at the same time, I was like, well, I've done inline skating a lot, and I see there's a lot of crashes I've had in the past because of inline skating where it was not your fault. And people would come and fall in front of you, people would come side, whatever. So I saw that as a risk, and I've had already enough injuries by then to kind of take that chance. So I was like, long track, start to finish, I'm on my own. It's okay. We'll figure it out, and that's it. So, and in those times, it was Yahoo groups where there was a Dutch journalist writing about an Indian ice skater in Scandinavia. And then basically somebody sent me that link. And this is like, I remember starting my journey having a black and white Nokia phone, and now we have a smartphone. Like, it's been so long, that whole process. And I'm thinking like, how did I kind of even get to communicate with these people? Because it was like, yeah, so then you just kind of realize like, whoa, man, that was interesting. Like, human race has evolved a lot also. So, yeah.
So what happened with the article then?
Yeah, so they were discussing things. His name is Manik Skolhaas, very legendary journalist in the Netherlands, very well respected and reputed. He wrote a book about history of long track speed skating and ice skating in the Netherlands, like starting from the Spanish Inquisition, like where ice skating was. How did ice skating become popular in the Netherlands? Because of the Spanish Inquisition, where the river had frozen, and the Dutch would in the day would trade with the Spanish people across the Spanish inquisitors across the water, and trade with them. And then in the night they would go, and the assassins would go ice skate over the river and assassinate a lot of the Spanish army. So it was like, that's the history of ice skating, which goes. I mean, this is something which was fascinating. That whole book was amazing to know how the Dutch have mastered the sport, and there's a good reason for it, and you can see why they are so good at it now. Like, it is like, the tradition is so beautiful. So one of the other things why Netherlands was also like, I saw in India, when you play cricket, the culture around the sport is so big that enables you, that gives you a lot of energy to just keep on pursuing that. American football in America, I don't know which other popular sports, the basketball, for example. There's like all this culture around the sport which helps you to keep yourself motivated. Forget about the money and the resources, all of that comes obviously, but just to be able to pursue this helped me a lot. And the Netherlands as a country has been overly welcoming to me and very nice to me, and has helped me survive so long. So basically, Marnix did the article. I wrote to him like, hey, I'm looking for a coach in the Netherlands. Can you help me out? So he's like, no worries. I'll write an article where we'll say you're looking for a coach. And that's what we did. And somehow Wim Nieuwauge, our coach so far, he reached out like, yeah, there might be a space on my team. And I was like, okay. So I remember speaking to Marnix about it on the phone. He said, yeah, Vish, there are 3 coaches who have written to me, or we've connected. But there are these 2, he said 2 of those. And then there's Wim. He's a champion maker. He's one of the most hardest coaches out there. His training programs are known for being really difficult. I like, yeah, that guy. I want to go with that guy. This is it. I said, he cannot be more harder than my father, can he? So it's fine. This is it. This is what we're going to do. And long behold, I found out that Wim has made Olympic champions, world champions in the past, and Dutch national champions, obviously. So I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it. And this is what we're doing. We got introduced. I call him up. The first thing we talk is, he said, Vish, you're crazy enough to come all the way from India to do my sport. I'm crazy enough to coach you. Let's start. And we started. Fast forward, what is it now? 10, 12 years, 66 national records for India, 210 or 20 races we've done so far for India, 4 medals at the World Games Masters, the Olympics for the old people.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, you were there? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to return early because of a death of a close friend. So
Oh wow.
I went there. I got to take in a little bit of it. I did one really terrible 500, and I got back on an airplane and went home. So
Oh, wow.
I am planning to go to the one in 2024, I hope, in
Where is
northern
it?
Italy.
Is it okay?
Yep. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to
but
be... Well, this should appeal to you. It's going to be on a frozen natural lake in northern Italy in the mountains.
Oh, lovely. But I
Yeah.
don't think I can participate now because I've qualified actually for the real World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, if you
so-
skated a World Cup, then you have to wait 5 years. So you're
Yeah,
too
yeah.
you're too rich and famous for us guys now.
No,
You moved on.
And the reason also for that was because I was recovering from an injury and I needed some confidence boost. So I was like, what am I supposed to do now? What are the bigger races which I can? Because Asian Championships or Asian Winter Games was being cancelled. So I couldn't do any of the big races yet. So I was literally stuck in the middle between the elites and the not elites. And then I was like, yeah, let's do the Masters. I'm here.
Yeah.
So I went on and did that. And then this was, I mean, I wasn't that good, but I still finished 3 silvers and 1 bronze on an outdoor track in snow and ice and rain and whatever. So it's just like that happened. And yeah, so it's been quite an interesting ride with Wim so far. Yeah, it's been like trying to figure out. Yeah, there you go. And he himself is like a typical Dutch skater who likes to cycle a lot, who likes to be there all the time. Like we are very close. He was the best man at my wedding. So yeah, kind of that was it. So yeah.
So one of the things that kind of struck me when I was looking at this timeline, you leave the country in 2008. In kind of, I think the 2017 fall, that season was a huge deal for you with a pretty significant injury. You didn't race at all in the 2017-2018 season from what I can see. So, you started in Denmark. I think you had a stop in Sweden and you made it to the Netherlands. Were you in the Netherlands that entire time or were you going back and forth? You said a lot of things went wrong along the way, so...
Yeah, so basically the idea was 2010 was the Olympics. I was like, hey, I'll go there, I'll train, and we'll be there. But when you, long behold, you arrive and you're like, yeah, no, this doesn't work like that. Elite sports is a different... Elite sports in Europe or the grown-up sports is a very different scenario altogether. So I really had to kind of relearn and re-educate myself in the way of life in general, not just... just sports. Because like in India, I grew up in a very protected household, mama's boy, your parents look after you. And the Indian society is very protective in that sense of your kids. So for me, I had to learn like how to do the dishes, do laundry, cook, all of that on my own. And so that journey was going on. And at the same time, I was trying to train. So 2010 was an absolutely no-go. So I had arrived in Europe on my Danish visa. So at some point when I decided like I want to move to Netherlands permanently, I needed a new visa, like transition from Danish to Dutch. So for that, somehow I had to go back to India. So I ended up spending 1 year between 2008 and 2012 in India, which was not a good idea again. But by this time we were already training with Wim. So I was trying to figure out what's going on. I did my Asian Championships at then. First time I skated at Kazakhstan, Astana, the ice track over there. I did all the distances because I was like, yeah, I'm going all the way here. I might as well do that. Then that was it. And then I spent 1 year in India, which was a waste again. So 2014 was again out of question. But then like up till 2017, but you have to understand in this time financially there is no stability, there is no financial promises about like pursuing this whole journey. Like it is erratic. You do crowdfunding, some sponsors are coming in, some sponsors going out. You're doing your work, you're trying to figure it out, you're doing all these jobs, saving up, whatever. So but you still, and then I ended up living on a friend's couch for like 7 years till 2017-18, just because I wanted to save money on rent. And I was like, all the money I earn, I'm going to put it into speed skating and put it into like surviving as doing this. But yeah, so again, so that stress in that Olympic year, I was like, you try to overreach, because you need to overdo and overreach as elite athletes. But obviously that's when you are the most vulnerable to mistakes and that's what happens. And you end up having crashes, you end up having all sorts of bad things. And I couldn't walk for the longest time, and obviously it takes a toll on your mental health. And yeah, so
How did the injury happen?
so it was an accumulation of three different times. Like once I fell off, like when I was doing some sprints, I had a little incident. I landed literally on my side. Then once off the bike, and then finally the last one was on the ice. So basically, same place, you get hit a couple of times hard, then your knee kind of my patella had a little bit of a crack, ribs were dislocated.
Oh.
And stuff like that. So, and obviously you are in pain, but as athletes you're like, no, it's just a pain, doesn't matter, let's push it.
Yeah.
And
No. So you missed all the racing that season.
yeah.
And I think at that point is that when you got some advice and decided to go to the Himalayas?
Yes, so a friend of mine, he's a musician, so I got to spend a lot of time in the Netherlands in a city called Utrecht with a lot of people who were involved with music, like creative people, arts and crafts and art and creatives. So one of my friends was a musician, singer-songwriter. He's like, Vish, his name is Casper. He's like, Vish, I think you need to go to the mountains to find yourself. He said this in October, November, I think, in the winter. I'm like, that's a good idea. And I had just kind of recovered from my injuries. Like I can walk, I can slide around. I called up a friend of mine. I'm looking for a sponsor to go ice skating in the Himalayas. This is just, I made it along the way on the phone. So by now I've been rejected by 100 different companies for sponsorship for elite sports, but for adventure sports directly, I found two sponsors who were willing to pay for the whole trip. And the content creator friend of mine, Ravi, he's been my friend from school. He's one of the most amazing wedding photographers, videographers in India. He just dropped everything and came with me for these 10 days. Him and his wife came to just capture this whole thing.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's go to Ladakh. There's this lake, Pangong So, which spans over India and China. And yeah, basically that's it. This was minus 35 degrees out there. And that's it. So we just go out there and I go ice skating on the frozen lake. And I find out that there is like a huge subculture of ice hockey in this province, which is insane. Like, yeah, I'm skating on the lake. I'm skating on this lake, doing my starts, doing these fast things. And there are these ice hockey players who are like just suddenly 20, 30 ice hockey players just stop and just stare at me doing what I do. And then, it was fascinating to be ice skating in India for a change. I was very emotional on this trip because I was on my ice skates on a frozen lake in India, so which is just unreal.
Do you think you had, or I had read somewhere that there's literally hundreds of people playing hockey up there, and they're getting equipment donated from the Canadian,
the NHL,
from the NHL.
Yeah, NHL has something called the Hockey Foundation, or at least there are people from the NHL supporting a cause called Hockey Foundation, and they've been doing this for a long time, not recently, like for 10, 15 years already. So you will see a village, a hut, which might not have electricity for 24 hours, but has some of the best hockey gear possible. So it's just amazing. And they're good hockey players also, like on pond hockey, they're really good. And to be able to be so good at 3,000 meters of altitude, it's just like really strong. So, yeah. And then I kind of like, that was the first time. And then I was like, okay, this is good. How do we push this? And obviously as athletes, you keep on wanting to push it, right? So then I was like, okay, next year I go to another lake and we made a circuit around the whole lake of a 5 kilometer or 6.5 kilometers something. And then let me just do a 5 kilometer on it, and it'll become like the world's highest 5 kilometers. And this lake was higher than the last lake we were at. So this is like at 4,520 meters or something. And that's what, like, it had snow on it. I asked the villagers, like, if they can help me make a track. They're like, for what? I'm like, ice skating. They're like, oh yeah, we know ice skating. Let's do it. And then they went and made us a track. And yeah, world's highest 5 kilometers, unofficial. Here we go.
I'm going to transition to something a little bit different just for a second, because I just want you to tell me what's happening in this picture.
That's the Dalai Lama, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
you did your research. Yeah. So again, as I said, like because long track speed skating is so popular in the Netherlands, I got the opportunity, or I've had the privilege in the last 5-6 years to use sports as a tool to bridge the gap between India and Europe. To explain to people in Europe, at least, that yeah, India is not just Nick Chalmers and yoga. There's a lot more to that. And here I was invited by one of the contingents going to India with Dutch companies where they're experts at all sorts of things. And I was there as an advisor to one of the sports infrastructure companies where there's the idea to install ice skating rinks across the country in India. We're just exploring that possibility. And then we were invited, when we were on this state visit, they said, hey, do you guys want to meet the Dalai Lama? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And we were invited to his lecture. And we were just like, the lecture was done. And obviously after the lecture, you want to have a picture with him. So he was sitting there and he went like this. And I was just standing there and I had I had my India t-shirt with me, and I have to give it to him. And he was just standing like this and smiling. And I was like, I think he's calling me. So I just stepped up. And on this trip, I had a friend of mine with me who's my friend from a long time ago. And he sees this happen and he's like, he can't believe that I was doing it. So I just went in and I gave him my t-shirt. I shook his hand, and then he didn't let go. And I was like, I guess I have to sit down now. So I hold his hand and I sat down, and then that's it. And then everybody else came, and that picture was taken.
So did he tell you to keep your right hip down in the corner, or no skating advice?
I only take skating advice from my coach, actually. So
yeah. Okay.
It's just you can give me, but and Shawnee Davis. Last year I was at this pre-qualification trials, like the time trials in Salt Lake. It was my first day in Salt Lake ever, and I was skating. The track was empty, and I was like, why is the track empty? And I was skating around, and I saw a guy running around the track constantly, and I was like, I think I know this person.
Yeah.
So then I just wave at the person, and then the person walks near me, and I was like, excuse me, can you help me with something? And because I had this transponder, I needed to know the times and stuff. Like, there's whatever. Like, we had a small talk, and I was like, aren't you Shawnee Davis? Like, yeah. I was like, whoa, okay. And then I told him, like, hey, I'm here to do 1,500 meters. Can you help me with it? And then he did. He showed me the time boards on my 1,500 meters where I qualified for the World Cup mass starts. And so it was like poetry in motion. That was insane.
Well, that's an excellent segue, because I wanted to try to understand some things. You needed to get a certain time in the 1,500, which then would allow you to skate in a mass start, correct?
Yeah. And then obviously you can skate the mass start, but then you need to obviously finish in a certain position, and then you need to still be faster on the 1,500 meters by a certain point of time. Because again, long track is an elite sport. It's just not, you can't just show up. You really have to be good at what you're doing, which is good, I would say, which is fantastic. But again, like with countries who don't have infrastructure or resources for the sport, it becomes a little bit like, on one hand, we want more countries to participate, but on one hand, we're also making it difficult for them to qualify. So it's like, but again, I think we are learning. Everybody's learning, I suppose.
Yeah, so your path for 2022 was to, get that mass start, and then be able to participate in a few of them, try to earn a spot for India so that you can then qualify. Yeah,
that was the basic idea. But then again, I did a World Cup, and then what happened, and I was already late for the World Cup, because this was the third one. I should have participated in a 1 or 2 already, but my funds were not arranged yet. So the funds got arranged last moment. My entries were sent last moment. So again, I need a visa for the fourth World Cup, which was in Canada, which I could not participate because the visas did not come on time. So this is when I realized, like, oh wow, it's just not about going fast when you're from India, not just about going fast on the ice track, So now that's it. So that was how it was, and it was again heartbreak. But this time around, I knew that okay, this was as close as we could have gotten with the amount of resources we had at our disposal. So
so we just came off an Olympic year. Clearly, we're starting a new quad.
Yeah.
Here's an image that I picked up that I think is probably kind of important.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. So these two people are they have extended their support, Mr. Jay Patel and Mr. Ramdev Huda. They are from the Bollywood industry in India, but they are like they both of them are from the film industry in India, but they are very passionate about sports, Indian sports in general. So they want to pick out all these niche sports and start supporting them without any questions. It was like the call came in like, Vishwaraj, we want to back you. And I was like, what do I have to do for you? Like, I call it, what does the monkey have to do? You know, tell the monkey what to do. So they're like, nothing, just do what you do, let us know what you need, and it's all good. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, but I've already committed to a couple of companies already, certain amount. Like it was also not a substantial amount, but whatever amount, like I value a lot. I value like so far we've been doing like things which could have been done for 100 euros. I've been doing it for 10 euros. So like now if we're getting a little bit more resources, it's fantastic. But how do we kind of do this? And they're like, we should just do what you do. Let us know what you need, and we'll make sure you're looked after. But just go for it. And I was like, okay, okay, cool. So that was it.
So that takes us kind of to now. You did more training in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
We had this little image here, which is 19,024 feet.
Yeah.
So you were cycling up there?
So last 15 kilometers, I could not cycle because the weather was really bad. But I'm going to go back there for sure. Ladakh itself is a hidden gem for altitude training, to be honest. So I stayed at 3,000 meters, and then from 3,000 meters, we cycled all the way up to 4,500 meters, and then again a little bit more. So it was interesting. It was interesting to come back there and train there just to put your body under that strain and stress. I think that was really helpful. And it was only my first training camp of sorts of this year. And to be honest, I was going to quit. I was going to stop. But this call came in from Mr. Jay and Randeep that, hey, we think we want to get behind you. And I was like, holy shit, okay. All right, that's what's up. So I like guys, I'm a little bit late with the training this year. Please excuse me, but I'll still commit to participating in a couple of World Cups and start the training in a way where we start setting up base for the following year and the year after that. So we take 1 year at a time, make sure the training is good, make sure the effort is put in, and then we'll see what happens. So, but I want to keep pushing. I feel better than ever. My coach is like Wim is amazing. What can I say?
So clearly, Vim is still committed to working with you. Do you have a team at this point?
In what sense?
A training group on the ice.
Yeah, so Vim has a very good development team where there are 2 girls and 2 boys. And the boy is skating in the top 15, 16 of the Netherlands, which is a good. Yeah. So he's awesome. Really good. And it's funny because like he joined when he was really like he was just starting out, So he would skate behind me growing up, and now he skates in front of me because I've had my journey's been different. So it's just really fun to see his development, and I'm like hoping that we get to go together at some point to the Olympics. That would be amazing story, but yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Okay, so at least, I talk about this a lot when I'm talking with people about the sport, that especially things like just the off-ice stuff. If you're trying to do a low-work session by yourself, or you're trying to do a really hard weights session by yourself, it's so much better to have a team and have people to kind of suffer with and pick each other up. And I was just curious if you had that infrastructure around you. It's one thing to have Vim there writing programs and doing things for you, but it's nice to have people to work with, I think.
I think in argument to that, Vim always says, in long track, you're starting on your own and you're finishing on your own. So you better get used to training on your own also. But obviously, if there's a team with you, it's just like I make sure that they're happy, because I remember being in a team with 30 skaters in the past, growing up. So that was one thing, and this is like, so it's just one of those things where it can go both ways. And because the big age gap, also I'm 36, my teammates are 21, 22, so their life goals are different than my life goals and my life scenarios. So it's but yeah, it's good. I mean, I've learned now that it's good if they're there. If it's not, it's good if they're not. Doesn't matter for me. It's just you have been given a program, follow it, and that's it.
So clearly then this year it's 1,500 times mass start attempts in World Cups. That's the short-term focus, right?
Short-term focus is to make sure showing up at the mass starts. I'll be doing marathons in Netherlands to prepare for the mass starts. And then towards the end, I want to try and do the 5 kilometers also at the oval finale in Calgary, to try and get that time also. So then, we have 2 distances to kind of secure that position. So yeah.
What is the 5K time you need?
6:45 and 6:40.
Okay, and 1,500 is
150. So I'm very convinced. Like last year, I did not get a chance to do the 5 kilometers at all properly. But my training times kind of gave me confidence that, okay, in Tialf or in outdoor track in Netherlands, in Utrecht, it was good enough to kind of give me the confidence that, okay, there is a good possibility of doing this. But again, it has to be with the training program of Wim. Only then,
Yeah. So you're going to go to the Calgary final?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were
that ticket. I still have that ticket from the time when the Canadian visa did not come in, So.
I was hoping you were going to say Salt Lake, because then there's probably a good chance I would have seen you there, but I probably won't be at the Calgary finale.
When is the Salt Lake finale?
Salt Lake is usually the week before.
Oh,
so
okay.
they're back to back, yeah. So you can come and do the double.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it actually, but I have to just see how, because I have one sponsor who's from the US and he's keen on seeing me in action. So that could be a good idea. But then I want to be optimal for the ovals, like the Calgary ones. So it's just, we'll see how things are and where I'm at, and yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I thought this was a fun journey. I really enjoyed the stories.
Thank you. Yeah, you did your research well. I mean, that last question also with Jay and Randeep, I didn't expect that one.
Well, you have a very robust Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's fun to follow you. It's fun to see. Clearly you've got some guys that have great video capabilities and
these are
post production.
Exactly, these are all just friends who are like, Vishwaraj, if you're doing this, you need to be able to tell your story properly, because clearly if you're looking for sponsors, they want to know what's going on, and if you're looking for sponsors in India, then they have no idea or imagination of what you're doing. So you need at least some good visual representation of what you're doing, and this is
Yeah, you got me wanting to go to the Himalayas now. That looks.
I'll let you know every
really
time I make
exciting.
a plan. I'll send you a message like, hey, this is the plan. Most welcome to join. That's it. So.
I like it. We'll document it. I want to show one more image, because this guy just looks like a serious skater.
It's the photographer. This is not. It is just the photographer. And Tialf has good lighting for this. Tialf really has good lighting for this.
Oh yeah, that's the place to. I've not skated there. I skated down the road, but never been to the Mecca of Tialf. I haven't been to Inzel yet either, but
it just gives you that vibe.
Yeah, good lighting. That's a killer skin suit. That's a good look.
It was very well made by the company Hunter or Bio.
Yeah, Hunter makes good stuff. Yeah. Well, I should probably get to work. This was super fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Let's stay in touch, and
absolutely. I'm curious to see the
feedback
on this, and
share it with all your friends. I'll probably post it here in the next several days.
Please do let me know.
Yeah, this was Wish, and it was awesome. We're out of here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, see you, man.